everybody, and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with, whoa, me, your host, but really it's Kiki, your host, Anne, and disembodied Hans Quindy, and Fitbit Eater Kiki, and Justin and John, yeah. Somebody is riled today. No teeth. No teeth, you're exiled. You're gonna be exiled. She's like, am I, Mama? He's looking at me like that. Oh, man. Keekers. Just some background noise. No, there wouldn't be any because she's bored while I'm eating breakfast. All you'd hear is me, like, washing dishes. It would be boring, Pendrake. It would be boring. All right, little doglet, go settle down. It's time to work. Work. No, your big snout is not allowed in here. Unless you want to come up and say hello, everybody, again. Okay. No teeth. Good girl. Good kisses. Hi. Yes. Hi. I know. I know. You just want to play. Puppies just want to have fun. Puppies just want to have fun and eat, Mom. Okay. Let's go. Good girl. You got your chews, you be good, okay? If you're good, I'll let you back in to settle and chew. But you're too obtrusive right now, Keekers. Sorry, I had to do that. I had to do the 80s flashback. I know, right? Some days it be like that with puppies, right? You feel like somehow they got into your caffeine stores. Oh, boy. Dearie me. Oh, wrong button, Ann, wrong button. Yay! There's my button. Whew! So, as Turgeon could tell you, the book went out to my beta readers / advanced copy readers last night. Yay! This means that I have time. I have a couple more things I need to do. I need to assign ISBN numbers to all versions of the book. I need to upload the book to Kindle to get the official page count for my cover designer so that she can do the trade paperback cover. Because I have the ebook cover, but I don't have the trade paper cover. Because you need an actual page count for that. But after that, it's pretty much like book is ready. Book is ready until until all my advanced reader copy readers and my betas and my proofreader get back to me with final changes. Yeah. Good. Victory for reading. Yay, Turgeon. Yeah, it's you and Zachariah and Richard for my advanced readers. I look forward to seeing what you think. Okay, let's see here. And we're going to work on Mellonir's cape today, and I want to shade it with purple. So I think I'm going to reach for something pretty saturated, because if you're going to go over the top of a really dark color, if you use something like Sticks Purple, the purple won't really make a difference. So let me get this here. We're going to shade with purple. Kiki, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm pawing at the gate, Mama. I'm pawing at the gate. Actually, she's pawing at the floor by the gate. But yeah, the point now is that I actually have time to throw into Patreon stuff while I wait for all those people to read my book. And that's great because there's a lot I need to do for Patreon because the last part of the month is going to ReaperCon. So it's got to get going. So yes. Exactly, all those links. I'm gonna actually try Monarch, which is a very vibrant dark purple. I do want to pop sometimes with Monarch and other really vibrant like dark blues. I like to add a little bit of extra anti-shine additive. You guys know this stuff. This is essentially Reaper's matting agent in a bottle. And you usually have to take the top off, honestly, because it's kind of goopy. But I didn't want to thin it down with a bunch of water. And it needs thinning, because it's starting to solidify. So it's a little paste. Actually, that's way too much. You want more like a tiny bit like that. Well, you could always just like devour the book and then go back and read it for content or for typos. I'd hate for you not to enjoy it as much because you have to read it critically, Turgeon. Plus, you know, even when I'm reading a book normally, I still catch stuff, to be honest. All right, I need to actually... Hold on, guys. One thing I want you to do after dealing with this anti-shine additive is if you do get it on your skin, do go and rinse off your hands real quick. It doesn't have like a... It's not like a... It doesn't have a toxic thing, but it does have a skin irritant issue thing. So, one second while I go and rinse off my hands real quick. And I never actually found it to actually irritate my skin at all, but if you have sensitive skin, just be aware. That's the anti-shine additive. And I need to put more water in that also. So I'm going to take the top off, and I'm going to grab, I'll just grab a sculpting tool and kind of push the goo back down into it. Oh, it's still wet down under, I see. It just dried at the top. That's fine. I'll put some water into it. Little water is never gonna... So I'm just using a sculpting tool to just push this down, make room for my water. And then I'll just pop some water in the top. And we'll be all good. Yeah, that's why I said it for you, Kernigo. Especially since this is, when it does get thicker, if you haven't added water to it in a while, the anti-shine additive, you know, you get tempted to just pop off the top and grab a little like I did. But it, like I said, if you do get it on your skin, just rinse off your hand. Don't leave it sitting there. Ah, that's good. Good, Turgeon. That's an awesome superpower to have. I need it back, ideally, well, you have like 3 weeks probably. I mean, I would like to get everybody's notes back by like the 18th because I'd actually like to release it, like I'm thinking about releasing it just a couple days early. Because getting it out there gives you times to leave reviews before I start an advertising push. So I'm not sure on that yet, but it's possible. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'll just put 10 drops of water into my anti-shine additive. And I gotta put my cap back in, which I'm kind of using the lid to push it down. Yep, there it is. Have a few flakes on my table that I can deal with. And now I'm just gonna shake that water up a little bit inside of the bottle. Start to get things a little bit into solution. This is one where I always say about when this stuff drops out of solution in the sealer that you should just use the butt end of a brush to just, you know, take the nipple off, stick the butt end of a brush in and stir it around manually. And that's what I'll end up doing with this, just to make sure it gets in solution. It takes a bit. It's a bit pasty, but it works. So, and I want to make sure these shadows are flat. Sometimes you'll notice with dark browns, dark blues, and dark purples that even though we add the same amount of matting agent into everything, for some reason they can just pick up and look a little bit too satin on the model. I found that to be the case. If you load too much matting agent into this, it will look slightly frosty. So do test it after you do it. And that's why you want to only use a tiny bit, because a drop of paint is just a very small volume to be dropping a bunch of this stuff into. It is pretty potent. So I'm just mixing it into my paint. Let's just back up because we're doing palette stuff, which is the Monarch Purple. You can see that is pretty vibrant purple up here. And that also lets me thin it so I can put it into shadows. Now, I'm happy, honestly, like, if I can get everybody's notes back by the 15th, that would be that would be my best scenario. That gives you guys 2 weeks to read it. It's a fast timeline, but it's not like an undoable timeline, especially not if you read fast like me. But yeah, just don't worry about it. I'd say just read to enjoy it, catch what you can, and then if you do have time to go, you know, back through it, you can. Remember, I do have an actual proofreader on this too, Turgeon, so See, the thing is, I don't need you to proofread. Let's just talk about that, actually, the difference, right? I do not need you to, like, catch every typo. I'm employing a proofreader. I do have a proofreader. So what I want you to do is read the book and enjoy it. And that way, because if you're proofreading, you aren't necessarily going to catch some other stuff, like flow, right? And, like, maybe, like, plot things that might not make sense, stuff like that. And that's the kind of thing that you'll get when you're organically reading and enjoying and just getting swept up in the story, and you're not going to get it if you're proofreading. So I actually don't want you to proofread. I just want you to tell me if you catch a typo naturally. How about that? Because I've got, you know, 4 other people reading this who are also going to catch typos, and my proofreader who is like a laser focused typo catcher. So, and I also caught typos with my editor. So I feel like the typos are not going to be, like, very common. And I would hate for you to, like, you know, like, have to read like an editor. Because there's, like I said, let's face it, there's stuff that you catch in books when you're just reading for enjoyment that you wouldn't catch if you had to read it sentence by sentence. So does that make sense to you, Turgeon? Yes, that's what advanced reader is. It's the fun kind of reading. But in the course of that, you know, in the course of reading for fun, like, I always notice stuff that maybe doesn't make sense to me, or that, you know, I don't, you know, it's like maybe it's clunky, or I'm like, wait, is that this? Wait, did I miss something? You know, things like that. I gave you that short list in the email of stuff I was looking for. But yeah, typos are incidental, because I have somebody looking through it specifically for typos. But because my proofreader is looking through it specifically for typos and grammar, she's not going to catch story stuff as much. So, yeah, fun reading, but with a red pen. Or with me, I just keep a sticky note next to me, and I jot down things as I notice them, right? All right, so I've thinned this. It's a pretty transparent paint anyway, Monarch Purple, which I like because I use it for shading a lot, so I actually want it a bit transparent. You can see it's kind of see-through there, but I do want it also to still, like, be purple enough to give some interest, some visual interest to the cape here. Yeah, love sticky notes. Sticky notes are my way to go, Bryce. All right, so I'm gonna put some purple in here. Oh, since you're on, Bryce, I can show you my first foray into comic book style here. I started putting colors on it. I'm really enjoying it. I think I'm going to do a lot of comic book going forward. This is my comic book. We started putting color on the skin. I did, like, more of a block-in. Since I'd never done it before, I made myself do a couple of different, like, kind of block-in styles, underpaint styles, to just, like, try them out. But then put color on it over on Saturday on my stream. So I'm really liking it. Like, it's very interesting because the cool thing is about comic book is it's still demanding, but it's I can use my 2D art knowledge, right? Because I can use I was talking to David about this. I'm like, the thing about comic book is if you have a very dynamic pencil style, right? If you have that kind of thing going on, this comic book lets you use it. It's the one time where you can really leverage a 2D art style, like a pencil style or pen and ink style, into miniatures, right? And I think that's what I've been missing in the comic book style stuff that I've seen, is that it's missing that. It's missing that dynamism that somebody who really knows their way around pen and ink is going to impart. And I really want to do that. I want to pull out my pen and ink chops and go at it, because I feel like comic book style can be elevated to a very high level, and that's what I've been missing with it, and so that's what I'm going to try to do. Hey, Agent. My arms were shaking last night after CrossFit. The weights section was deadlifts, which wasn't nearly that bad, but we had, like, 3 sets of 21 wall balls, if you know what wall balls are. Let me get my ancient oak here. I need to have a little bit of it on hand. Or did I do Jungle Moss? I think I did Jungle Moss on him. Where's his card? Yeah, I did Jungle Moss. Okay. Oh, okay. Cool. Excellent. So is Eric a good teacher, Bryce? I've seen him on stream of it. Yeah, wall balls are tough. For those who don't know what wall balls are, you're holding a ball. It's between 10 and 20 pounds. And then you have to squat really deep, and then you have to stand up really suddenly and then throw the ball up in the air and hit a spot on the wall and catch the ball as it comes down and then go down into squat. The hard part of this is that these balls are not just a ball, they are 10 to 20 pound weights. So you're essentially throwing a 10 to 20 pound weight in the air, catching it, and then squatting with it, and then doing it again. And in this case, you were doing it 21 times for 3 sets, with a run in between. Yeah, Carnico. If you're not good at catching things, the wall balls would be dangerous because the ball would fall down and hit you. Oh, he's a very good teacher. Good, good. That's good to know. Yeah, well, that's exactly what I'm trying to strengthen, right? So that's why this is like the later stage on my getting fit journey. After I've been doing yoga for 3 years and like, you know, walking and throwing the running into the equation. Then I started CrossFit. Like that's the part, you know, it's like Anne started CrossFit, blah. No, it's Anne did yoga for 3 years and then she it's the journey you never see, right? That's fine, Hig. I chose to do this. Like, I was not forced into the CrossFit gym. Well, except for by my knowledge that as I get older, as a female especially, it's important to do some weight resistance stuff because otherwise you lose a lot of bone density. And building muscle can strengthen the connections of your muscles and tendons to your bones, and they can encourage they can discourage bone loss. So you can kind of head off that whole osteoporosis thing. So weirdly, as you get older, women really belong in the gym more than ever. But I enjoy CrossFit. Like, every once in a while, I'm like, you know, I could just quit coming. And then I'm like, you know what? But I actually kind of, in a masochistic kind of way, I actually do enjoy it. Yeah, I still do yoga every morning, so I'm with you, Bryce. I have to do my yoga in the morning or my back would just not want to do anything for me every day. The yoga is to pacify my spine. So you can see that purple coming in, and hopefully you can actually see the color. But it's subtle, right? It's like, but it's more interesting than just putting a dark green in, and that's why you would do this. And I like the purple because it's a little bit different. Like we usually, it's often a thing where you see dark blues used to shade greens. And that makes sense because blue is in green. But when you throw that little bit of red in that you get with the purple, it just harmonizes really well. And since it's in that secondary color triad, and we're using purple even as an accent. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, the magic land cards are always pretty. That's great. That's a great idea. And hey, a new use for magic cards. It's a Luca raid. Ah, run screaming. It's Luca Spaghetti Arms. Yep. Hi, Luca. Are you back from your journey, your vacation back home? Did you get to see your dog? And your family, one presumes. But you missed your dog, and you never said you missed your family, so I was like, you know, I just don't want to assume these things. We're using some purple to shade our dark greens today, everybody. Welcome, Raiders. Most of you know who I am at this point, but I'm Anne, and I work for Reaper. So I'm using a Reaper color. That's actually, it's not a single pigment color, but it's very close to what you'd get if you mixed the Chimera Magenta with the Chimera Violet. It's called Monarch Purple, and it doesn't have any white in it, and it doesn't have any black in it, so it's actually a very good, intense, high saturation shading color is what I most often use it for. You could use it as its own self, of course, as well. But I really like it for shading things like mixing into skin tones and shading greens and things with. It actually is a good shader for reds as well. It even would be a good shader for browns. Like, I like using purple as a shadow. I cannot lie. Did Luca raid and run? I don't see him. Maybe he'll be back later. Usually he hangs around at least to raise Quinny's blood pressure. Alright, so I'm going to actually block it in and wet blend it a little bit with some of my green. This green is called Jungle Moss. It's a muted dark green. We're going with a more muted color scheme on this model. I need to repaint part of his hair as well. I had to green stuff after the fact. It's not quite the same as Cricut ink. You would have to add a little bit of black to it. Kraken is more blue. It's more like a violet, like a black violet. It's hold on, I'll fetch it and show you the difference because it is hiding right here in my box. So Cricut ink, which is Kraken ink or Kraken ink, depending on how you say it, is much darker than my Monarch. And you can see that Monarch is lighter, and you can see that it's more red. We've got more blue in Kraken ink. Let me put a little bit of it on the palette, and I'll show you. Yeah, it is. It's a very strong pigmented color. I mean, the transparency, now that I've thinned it, is mostly due to the fact that the pigments that make it up are themselves pretty transparent. If you don't have any white in there to help with coverage, and you haven't snuck in any other high coverage pigments to help it, you're going to end up with something that is a little more translucent. All right. But that's why I love it as a shader, because I have to put minimal effort into it to get it to where I want it as a shader. All right, so then Kraken ink, thin it down a little bit. Yeah. So let's just get a little bit of it spreading out. So look at how much bluer than that. So you see what I mean when I say it's more of a violet. Violet is generally a bluer purple. So you can really see the difference here between the two. Now that said, Kraken ink is also, it doesn't have too much black in it. Just looking at the way the color looks, it probably, the blue itself may actually take it down. So what you could do, Agent Marvel, is you could, if you have Monarch and you have clear blue, you could add a drop of clear blue in and see how close you get. And just shove it that bit toward violet, because blue pigment, especially like red shade phthalo blue, is so very dark naturally. You probably can shove this down to this level just by adding clear blue and avoid adding black. And you could get really close to Kraken ink that way. So yeah, so everybody go out and order Monarch Purple so they don't cancel it, because it's our only way to make Kraken ink. Yeah, hey Zachariah. So, Zachariah, we were just talking about my book. So I want to clarify something to you and to Richard. Read it for fun. If you catch typos, awesome, but don't go looking for typos. Like, don't read it slowly because you think you have to be a proofreader. I don't need you to be a proofreader. I just need you to read, enjoy it, and then tell me the natural things that stuck out to you as negatives if you find any. Like, that's kind of what I had to clarify to Turgeon earlier because they were reading it slower to try to catch things. I already have a proofreader, so I do not need you to be a proofreader. I just need you to read it for fun, essentially. And if there are parts that don't make sense to you, or parts you don't like, or you catch a typo, make a note and then let me know. That's what I want. I mean, it's just hard to get, and it's part of a fast palette pen drake, so it seems like fast palettes are being phased out. Yeah, reading for fun on the first round. Good, good, good. Yeah, but you don't even have to go through it on a second round if you don't want to, because like I said, I have a proofreader. She's going to ferret out a lot of typos. So just all I want, I mean, if you want to, you can. I'm not going to say, no, you can't read it a second time. But you know what I mean, right? That's what I'm looking for, so. Oh, good. Yes, yes, yes. Grays are interesting. When you use colors to shade gray, the gray can take on that color, and you can end up with kind of a gray-purple cloak if you're not careful, Slayer. With grays, what I like to do is not to introduce the colors to shade, but to actually add a little bit of a different color into the gray directly. And then maybe figure out a darker version of that. So if I was going to do purple, I would actually add a little bit of the purple into the gray up front. It should still look gray, but you can add a tiny bit up front. And that's going to keep your gray from being real flat and looking like an illustration. Yeah, you can only buy it in the High Seas Horror. And since they seemed to be phasing out a lot of the fast palettes, I just wanted to make sure people know. It's good. Yeah, I mean, if you can get it read in the next couple weeks, that would be my ideal, because then if you do have feedback that requires me to make, like, a decent change to the book, like if you and Turgeon and Richard all come back to me and say, we hated this X part, then I'm going to go, ooh, I need to do something about that part. And that's going to take me a little time, right? So it's good to get your initial impressions within a couple of weeks, if I can. No pressure. You technically have like the whole 3 weeks. It's no big deal. If I have to push off release, I can push off release. That's the great thing about being independently published, is you can just say, you know what, the book's not ready. I'm going to push it off for a week. Yeah, so... But yeah, Slayer, with grays, I very much prefer to just add a little bit of color into them up front to make them not as flat. I find that I get better results that way. So I'll add a little bit of brown, a little bit of purple. Most often I'll add blue or brown, depending on what I'm aiming for with the gray. Like up here, it's definitely was a blue-gray underneath the hair. All right, let us get our shading going on here. Yeah, I'm just anticipating, like, when they might not get around to doing cancellations to the paint line for a while, but if they're talking about it, you know it's coming. So I just want people to be aware and make their purchases or know about the mixes, because, you know, once that cancellation comes in, if Monarch Purple gets, like, destroyed, then we won't have that color in our arsenal to mix a quick Kraken ink. Certainly there are still ways to mix every color that Reaper cancels. Like, obviously, I know I could figure it out. You know, if you have all the clears, you can do it. But that said, some formulas are just complex enough that mixing them can be a real pain in the butt. All right, so we've got those purple shadows coming in here, and it's not strong enough to like turn the cape purple or anything, but it does give us a nice level of synergy in the shadows between these purple parts that we have here that we haven't yet, I haven't yet highlighted these all the way up. But all that, it gives us some harmony, right, going on. Well, now you know, Slayer. Yeah, because grays can look way too flat otherwise, I find. So these days, unless I'm underpainting, I'm gonna mix something in with the gray. Using the purple to shade under the hood here. But yeah, mostly, Zachariah, with you people who have my book early, I just want you to read it, enjoy it, be able to leave a nice review on the day we release it. we go. So you still want to leave most everything green, obviously. Yeah, I just don't know how much time you've got, Agent Marvel, so I'm just going to keep reminding people, hey, if you don't have this color that I use all the time and you keep thinking about getting it, now is probably the time to get it before the cancel back comes down on the paint line. And who knows, maybe it won't be a big change, but it might be a big change. You just never know. Cool, cool. Thanks. Thanks, Zachariah. And hey, if you accidentally read it faster, then oh well. It is a honk of a book. It is quite large. I'm re-debating how much time I really have for writing this month, because between a lot of stuff to do for Patreon and because ReaperCon at the end of the month. So I may not be working on anything rough this month. I was going to, but I feel like I really need to throw myself into planning on both of the books I had in mind. I need to put more time into organizing my notes on book 3. And you can use Kraken ink for this as well, by the way. Kraken ink will work just fine. I just like the more reddish purple over greens because, you know, it kind of plays that complementary thing, even though it's not really a red. So that's Kraken ink. I'm bringing in Kraken ink there. It's much darker. Decided to just pop in a little bit of that for fun. But yeah, so not sure. I know there's actually, because I'm now I'm just waiting for you guys essentially to all read the book and get changes back to me. I actually have a load of time that I can use to do things like producing stuff for my YouTube and my Patreon, because I'm not distracted by, you know, a book deadline or things like that. So that's nice. That's nice to have. So it's with ReaperCon coming, it's a good time to have that sort of thing. I have to finish booking my hotels to get Kiki and I to ReaperCon. That's a project for today. Alright, so we've got that shaded. Let's get this little bit of dark green on the front and the dark green down here shaded. So these little folds are so tiny, you're really just going to use a line to do them. You're not really going to do a lot of shading other than just a line of shadow there. Just mixing up my paint here. Yeah, I need to get a con t-shirt too. That's a good reminder, Turgeon. I always forget that I don't get one now. Like, staff always used to get them, like, just straight up, but I'm not really staff anymore, so I'm only a part-time staff. I'm not a full-time staff. I do not get a free t-shirt with my convention. So I need to get online and order one. I'm trying to replace some older t-shirts I have anyway, so. Alright, so just those lines in there just to bring in that. You can still see the purple in them. No, it's a road trip. Apparently there is an airline that does allow you to fly with your dog, but I haven't looked into it. Plus, if I'm bringing a couple boxes of books, it just makes sense to take the car. And I just ordered a mini freezer, a portable freezer. So, you know, I've kind of invested. At this point, I'm kind of invested in the road trip. Gonna shade down under the shield with this purple. Pretty hefty shadow. And then taper it off around there so I can still have the green at the edges. And I don't want this purple to be overwhelming. I just want it to be there. I really love, actually, this sort of green is really nice to use the purple with, but my favorite green to shade with purple is olive greens, because the yellow and the olive green and the purple, like, they just totally bounce off each other. It's great. It tends to be a really good combo. Oh, and I didn't get the bottom. I can see a little bit underneath here where I did not actually get. There's a little bit of gray along this lower edge that I didn't get with my shadow color. So hold on, let me grab my grab brown liner. Yup. Yes, the freezer came. Now I have to plug it in and check it out. Who knew that such a thing existed? But if it works, it should be good. It'll be good not to have to worry about stuff and to have a cooler that doesn't like take a ton of ice. Although I do have a really nice OtterBox cooler, and I may still use it for drinks. All right. Oh, take your allergy pill, Wendy. Mine just kicked in. The allergies did, not my pill. So I've just gotten a drop of brown liner up on my palette. And when I only need a little bit of paint, I just do this. I just pop it up on the top. I don't even take up a well with it. I'm just going to go in and get this part that I missed. So I'm looking for subjects, guys, for my my Patreon this month. Any suggestions? Anything you'd like to see me cover if you're a patron or thinking about becoming one? If you have any ideas, shoot. I'm thinking about doing an eyeballs PDF because I think all my eyeballs content has actually been video up to now, so $2 might get an eyeball PDF. Okay, I think that I got all that. Yeah, that's great. So now we have then the shadow is solid down there. Hey there, Valhalla Painting. Thank you for the raid. Wow, it's raid day. We are using purple to shade green today because I really enjoy the look of it. So we did the back here already, and we're headed onto the front now. Most of this is in shadow, except for the little tiny bits at the bottom that kind of come out. So I'm going to really throw the purple in there. And then there's that central fold. You can see the purple come down. And behind the boot, I want the purple. There's only a little bit of green that stays. Those who don't know me from Valhalla, I'm Anne. Hi. I work for Reaper Miniatures. I've worked for Reaper for 20 years. Most of the time I was designing the paint line and being a staff painter, but then I moved out here to the West Coast at the start of the pandemic to be with my guy, and I started just streaming for Reaper. So I'm just a part-time employee now, a part-time Anne. But as I did design Master Series paint, I know my way in and out of paint, and so if you have paint-related questions, why does my paint work this way or not work that way, I am your woman to answer them. We do this stream every weekday from 11:30 a.m. USA Central Time until 1 p.m. Central Time, so over your lunch hour. And we paint a different model every day. We have a 6-model rotation, so we paint one every day, and then we loop around to the first one again. And we slowly finish everything. Yeah, there's a loose hair on this brush. You can see it. You can see it right there. See it? There it is. Oh, let's do surgery. Okay. And really this stream, although I do paint on it, it's really here to answer questions. So if you have any questions about painting, I've been painting for a very long time now. Professionally painting since, oh boy. I've been professionally painting for over 20 years. How about that? And I started painting when I was very young. So first you need to isolate the little hair. Let me get my base because it's going to make it easier to see. There, so we can kind of see that little hair. You can see it. So isolate it with your knife. And then kind of pull it out and keep your knife going down, kind of ease it out to hit the bottom, and then press down with your knife and just snick it off. And that's the best way to get them out. You never want to pull them out because you're going to disrupt the adhesive that holds all the other hairs in place. And it's important that all these other hairs hold in place. So the best way to do it is just like that way with your hobby knife. Just be surgical and intentional about it. And that will get it out of there without hurting the rest of your hairs. This is a Winsor & Newton Series 7, size 0. And I'm pretty much running it through the wringer. I'm destroying it day by day with so much painting. I'm going to paint it until it dies, and then I'll switch back to my Da Vinci, which is what I actually usually use. Or my Raphaels, which I've been known to use as well. So we've got just that little bit of green still down there, and a lot of purple shadow up there, which is what we want. Now we'll go over here. I've been doing this for a very long time. How about that? I don't know if I'm the oldest person teaching mini painting or if I have the most years of experience, but I've been around the block. And most miniature painters can't say that they actually designed a major paint line. And not just designed, like chose the colors, but actually chose the bases and mixed every batch by hand for 17 years or 15 years, I would say, because I did have help for some of that time. So we've got our purple coming in there. I just like purple as a shadow for green. I find it makes things more interesting. You can also use it as a shadow for brown, so we might actually take it in on these boots and play with it there as well. I think I've got my purple shadows. I can do a little bit more here. Oop. Oh, so many things to do today. So many things, everybody, so many things. Alrighty, so there we go, and yeah, let's do some purple on the boots. Because I did use, I believe I used saddle brown. Yeah, saddle brown has a bit of reddish, purplish color to it. So we may be able to use this purple for a shader there as well. So I'm going to pop it in around the top here. And I'm going to hit all these creases. Yep. Yeah, it depends on the color of the leather. I don't think I would reach for burgundy very much, unless it was a really reddish leather, then it makes sense. But color choices for this sort of thing are part of a painter's style, so everybody's going to be a little bit different on it. And I'm not using very much, Because I don't want to lose, I don't want to shift my brown too much toward the purple. I just want a little bit of definition like that. Alrighty. But yeah, I may have to go and brave the wilds of Costco later. Again, because I swore I would go back and get... They had Topo Chico on sale, and that's my favorite water. I go through a lot of it, so getting it on sale is good. And they also had the Pellegrino ones on sale. The black cherry one is really good. So I think I have to go and brave the Costco and be very laser focused so I don't spend too much money. Alright, so that gives us some definition on that boot. You can see the difference between the two now. It has taken it darker. When you add shadows to something, it does take it darker, the overall appearance, because you're filling in some of this area that's flat with shadows, and so it goes dark, and then when you bring up your highlights, you can pull it back toward the middle. Yeah, that's one of the ones. This is a variety pack. It's got the cherry and the, I think it has the blood orange one as well. And then, is it the blood orange strawberry? Is that the combo flavor, Wendy? It's got those 3 standard sparkling water, the 3 of the... Too much like licking a rock. The Pellegrinos are good, though. I switched over entirely. Well, you know I switched over entirely to sparkling water off of other kinds of drinks. It took me a while to get there, but once I got a taste for it, I was like, oh, this is good. Because I used to put a little bit of sweetener in it. Then I found after a while that I could just drop the sweetener. So it was like a soda, but I was putting sweetener in it. But I can control which sweetener and how much. But now I just drink them straight. Some are better than others, definitely. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I'll find out when I go and buy the pallet of them. Hopefully they're still on sale and still there. You never know with Costco. But I've been lying in wait and so that I can go on a weekday instead of a weekend, so it's much less insane. There we go. So yes, now we have the shading in on that one, and we can get a bit up here around the top of the pouch. And then these bracers, probably just a little bit kind of around the top, leading up to that upper rim. You see it there. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Although you can never tell with writers when they're basing a character on you. Because usually they only pull one of your personality traits if they're, you know. We don't directly base characters on people, but there are definitely times when things happen and like somebody's like, I need a character like that. I need to write a character like that. Pardon me, I have to resituate some things here so I can reach my saddle brown. My things are situated very dicey these days here. Got too much crap around me is what it comes down to. Where's my saddle brown? There it is. I just want to be able to touch up if I have to. So I would put it like one of the characters in my Bear Kings books is kind of, it's kind of inspired by somebody I knew. But like there's like only one personality trait. Just like, this character is like that. And then the rest is all different. That's how writers can be inspired by reality, but still not directly rip it off. Just iterating on it. But don't look, you'd better look out. Oh, neat. Oh, nice. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, potassium especially. Like we need any more sodium in our diets, right? Like, let's face it, most of us get way too much salt. Unless you're on keto, then you need it. Like, I used to actually load a bunch of salt into me. But yeah, potassium is a big one. I take extra potassium. Electrolyte drinks, huh? Ultima. I will make a note. Making a note to look into those. Because that might be something nice to have after working out. Normally I just I do my smoothie, protein smoothie, and I add a little bit of salt to that, and I have a potassium with it. Plus the fruit and this soy milk have potassium, but still. All right, so just wanted to blend that in a little bit and get a highlight down the top here. Looking okay. I don't think there's any other leather there that needs it. Ah, stevia might be the catch for me. I can't have too much of it. Gives me bladder spasms. But I'll look at it. Can't hurt to look at it. I have found that with my Crohn's stuff, I have to be real careful about artificial or natural sweeteners. Weirdly, and this is stupid. Okay, you know it's dumb when your stupid body that has like stuff wrong with it likes sugar just fine, but any other natural sweetener it has an issue with. It's so dumb. I'm like, body, sugar is not good for you. And it's like, oh, yes, it is. Ah, okay. But bodies are dumb. I've just come to this conclusion. All right, I'm going to use some purple to shade. Since I want, the light's probably falling here, we can see that it is. And then we kind of hit a shadow through here, and then the light picks up where it moves out to catch it here. So I'm going to put an extra little purple shadow in here. Isn't that terrible, Carrie? Like, it is for real. Yeah. Yeah, my body has no problem if I eat a ton of sugar. Well, except that it wants to gain a ton of weight. So I've just cut down on a lot of stuff. Doing more fruit, less sugar. I can do fruit, so if it's especially in my smoothies where it's all blended up. You don't remember what apple pie tastes like. Yeah, made up the difference with stevia. Yeah, that's, you gotta read labels. You gotta read labels. Like the back label, like the ingredients. When you learn to do that when you're gluten-free, like I went gluten-free, and that taught me to read all the labels. And when I turned out to have, tomatoes being terrible in my body's opinion, then I had to, I had to look for wheat, I had to look for tomato. I'm just so used to picking up a product and reading all the ingredients now. It's just like I keep a pair of reading glasses in my purse just so I can do it. Yeah. I mean, it's not the flavor that bugs me with stevia. I don't actually get much of the after flavor with stevia. Oh, I disagree. I disagree. I love apple so much more than peach. Sorry. Sorry, Shadow Raven. More for you. More for you and more for me. Apple pie is actually my favorite pie. Oh, wait. No, I lied. Coconut cream pie is my favorite pie. Apple pie is my second and almost as good flavored pie. But I've never been a huge fan of peaches. Maybe it's because I'm Midwestern and not Southern by birth. Or actually by growing up, I should say, since I was born out here in neither the South nor the North. But yeah, I don't mind like the natural sugars like erythritol and stevia. The flavor doesn't put me off at all anymore. I got very acclimated to them on keto, but at some point my body just decided, you know what, these are weird and I don't like them anymore. And I was like, no. So now I'm just like, I've cut way down on my sweet stuff in general, which I used to be such a sweetivore, like totally. David would tell you about my sweet tooth, but I've just cut back on all of it. So now I'm seeing there is a tiny little notch at the top and bottom here, as if these horn bits should be like a brass or something. It's really shallow. I didn't even see it, but I see a trace of it at the top up here and a trace of it down here. So I'm going to take my brown liner and actually mark those. Yeah, yeah. That's a terrible thing, Carrie. Yep. Sneaky companies. Trying not to tell you that they've changed things when they do. There ought to be a truth in advertising about that. Like, if you change a significant ingredient, you should have to change the packaging. Yeah. I still have a little bit of stevia and monk fruit with my tea in the morning. I can do one packet okay. I do the Good Earth stevia monk fruit packets. Okay, so that's where I'm seeing that divider right there. I'm just going to paint it in. And then up here I see a little tiny notch right here. They're at about the same area, so I have to assume they're purposeful. Yeah, I didn't have ages for it forever, but I mean, it is the nature of my particular disorder that it does develop. I hit a road bump and had a bad attack of gastroenteritis earlier this year, the end of last year, and that essentially knocked erythritol right out for me for the most part. Yeah, if you want good tea, you kind of have to brew it yourself. And raspberry iced tea, I had the best luck with raspberry and fruit iced teas when I used a cold brewer, Twisted Oma, the kind you use for coffee. I got it. It was originally, we had one in my old house for coffee, but then I realized that I could do tea in it, and it means it's never bitter, even though you let it brew overnight at room temp. Ah, interesting, Shadow Raven. Yeah, I've read too many studies about how sugar messes with your hormones and stuff and other things in your body. I'm like, just trying to cut it as much as I can. I still have my pastry every once in a while. I am not perfect, but in general, I try to make decisions that are a little better. It's the most we can do, I think. Nobody's ever going to be perfect. So just touching up stuff. Got that bow. Got my shading. Got those 2 bits marked out. I think I'm going to switch their color real quick to make sure that I know that that's what I'm supposed to. I'm supposed to be painting them with my brass. Yeah, with the waters especially, it just made sense to just drop the sugar. Get to the point where I could drop sweetener. So now I have my flavored sparkling waters. I do pretty well on them. Whatever you have to do to trick your body. It's just like you're gaming your brain about mini painting if you're feeling resistance or having a hard time finishing a model or starting a model. It's like you always have to figure out how to game your brain and make your brain happy with your decision. Putting that rich leather on there so that I know that'll visually mark me that, okay, I need these to be the same color as these brass bits here and the leaf pattern and all that. Potato in general is really starchy, and I tend to avoid carbs, as you know, Pendrake. So what I do is I tend to do them, I'll just bake 1 potato, and then I'll split it in half, and David can have 1 half, and I have the other. That way I can take a smaller half and still have a little bit of potato, but not have that many carbs and that much starch. And of course the calories are important right now to me too, so. I'm not a huge potato lover in general. I got a mold line here, guys, so I'm going to take it out real quick since I'm recoating this area anyway. Yeah, I'm not a huge potato person anyway, so for fries, I far prefer sweet potato fries, which are lower carb, actually, weirdly. I really like doing twice baked Pendrake, so butter, sour cream, cheese, a little bit of green onion. Since I'm on a high-fat, low-carb diet, the butter, sour cream, and cheese are just like, makes it more my diet. Yeah, I found a raspberry tea. I did find a raspberry herbal. And you're right, they do add other stuff to it, but this one was really strong raspberry, strong fruit in general. It's a European brand though. I got it off of Amazon, but it did give me a decent raspberry flavor. You could also just look for freeze-dried raspberries, Twisted Oma, and just put those in a tea infuser and put that into your tea. But I wouldn't do it hot. Like there's definitely a difference between cold brewing and hot brewing for me on that. Cold brew overnight versus a hot brew tea fast. Like I had a lot more success with infusing flavors into my overnight teas than I did the hot tea, because sometimes the heat can change a flavor. But yeah, I mean, keep experimenting. Who knows? Plus, experimenting can be fun. All right, so I got that. Make sure I've got a nice solid coat on there. Awesome. Okay, what do we got? We still got some time. Okay, what are we going to use to highlight this cape with? We are probably going to use our leaf bud green, because that's where we were at when I set out this lovely card. It's got a lot of colors on it now. Yeah, I made a note on the cloth. 1-to-1 jungle moss and leaf bud green. So let's grab our leaf bud green. Not our cat's eye green. Yes. Oh, I can't stand brown sugar and cinnamon on sweet potatoes. The minute that those flavors, those smells get mixed, I want to vomit. I don't know what it is. It's been since I was a kid because we always had those ultra sweet sweet potato casserole for Thanksgiving, and my mom learned to put it far away from me as a child because the smell of it made me want to retch. I like straight up sweet potato, butter and salt with a little bit of savory. Sometimes actually sweet potato fries with chili pepper on them are really good. Like Chipotle, really good. Oh, it's a wild Luca. It's been so long. Luca, did you see your dog when you were home? I thought of you when they said you had gone back to whence you came. And I wondered if you got to see your dog. Oh, sweet potatoes and feta cheese. I haven't tried that one, Quindy. Yeah, good. You've got puppy time. That's great. I'm glad, Luca. Fantastic. All right. Wrong green, or wrong purple, or wrong something. I don't know. It's all green and purple today. Sorry, guys. So we got our purple shadows in. Now I'm going to mix up leaf bud green and my troll hide. Leaf bud is the color we were using here. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, food tastes are very, very personal things. Plus, all of us, with so many of us having allergies or other issues. But that's good because there's so many foods. So many foods. I think I'm making shrimp scampi tonight because it's fast. I had to do a bunch of dog stuff last night because there was a puppy litter that was 8 weeks in Europe, and they did not have anybody. Oh no! I just grabbed troll hide instead of jungle moss. No, fail! That would not have given us a good result. All right, I'm too distracted, obviously. You got pizza, good. So now your families have met each other? Miniatures Den? That's good to have that over with. Or your girlfriend has met your family and you've met hers. I don't know, but that just kind of became an afterthought for me at some point in relationships where I was just like, I'm going to be in a relationship with you even if they hate me, so. Oh. Well, that's family. That be family. We all have family members who we kind of like are like yes, no blood feuds. That's good. Yeah, there you go. And sometimes, right, you need to go back and see, and then you're like, wait, Spain is awesome. That's great. Yay! 2 thumbs up, Luca. Yeah, because we do tend to second guess ourselves, don't we? Okay, this is a much nicer color. Okay. I'll mix up the other color just to show you how different it would be, too. This is a nice, soft, grayed out green. It's lovely. It's kind of, it's what I think of as elven cloak green. Like the cloaks in Lord of the Rings. Like they're kind of that color. But yeah, it's great to have your choices validated. Yeah, see, with that olive green, then we go very olivey, which would not match his color scheme at all. Very, very different. Even though those colors in the bottle look similar, so be careful, everybody. Hey, Luca, I have a question for you on style, because I haven't had time to watch a lot of your streams. Do you use a lot of black? Or are you more like mix your own black kind of guy? Or do you prefer other colors for your shadows? Bye, Shadow Raven. Have fun with your tacos. I hope they're tasty. Let's see here. Let's get some of this color up on here and see if we like it. And these folds, although they are small, I'm still going to go across rather than in line with to confuse the eye and make my blends a little nicer. Okay. That makes sense. I just started comic book style, so I was I'm having fun with it, because before I was very much I never used a real black. I would mix my blacks, or I'd get close, but I would use near black colors. I never would use pure black. But with the comic book style, I'm doing pure black. And it helped me a lot to just think of it as doing pen and ink sketch over a miniature. But yeah, it's fun. I'm having fun with it. Yeah, there is a lot of toss around. Yeah. And on my previous one, I come from the 2D art world, and so, when I was in oil painting class, they're like, never use black, that kind of thing. And I just tend to not like it on miniatures, except for very specific usage. But yeah, the comic book, obviously it works with comic book style. It needs to be there. So yeah, it's kind of neat. I was not expecting to like it as much as I do. Yeah. Yeah, somewhat. I don't know. I mean, I'm going pretty saturated with this guy. But I feel like the black really does make a difference in just the harshness. And of course, you're not blending in the shadows, right? You're leaving a lot of line work. So I feel like comic book, I don't know, I feel like comic book is done a lot of different ways, and it's very individualistic, and I'm really trying to kind of do it in line with my style, and do it to a very high level, essentially, execute to a very high level, so that I am really using kind of my pen and ink skills from being a 2D artist, as well as using my painting skills from being a miniature painter. Yeah, hard edge, black shadows, and line work, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I meant in general also. I just wondered if you were somebody who liked to reach for the black, or if you, because it seems like it is two camps, right? There's people who don't ever like to use it, people who use it whenever they might need it, and people who really like it and reach for it often. So I wondered because your stuff is so high contrast, so you've got a lot of drama. But you're not a drama llama, just a drama alpaca. Yeah, yeah. I dislike that too. I mean, I tend to go more naturalistic, right? Yeah, Spanish painting. And Spanish have a, oh no. We're going to get to the point where the chat just bans the word Freudian. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's what naturally happens anyway, right? Like, it tends to anyway. I guess there are people who punch up their highlights and shadows too. But, naturally, your local color is where you're going to get usually your highest saturation. Because adding white will desaturate, and adding shadow colors also desaturates. Black or any other complementary color desaturates. So, yeah. Our light sources are often colored, yeah. I was just actually talking about that on my stream, how I don't want to take up this orc skin too much toward yellow at the top. Like, when I start to do a highlight, I do tend to mix a little tiny bit of yellow into it, because sunlight. But after that, like, there definitely comes a point where I just go up with white if I need to go up higher. Because otherwise it goes too yellow and it looks too weird to me. Yeah, they add saturation as they light things up. Right, yeah, that's if you keep adding the yellow or whatever color your light source is, right? Plenty of different colored light sources these days. Yeah. I tend to like naturalism, so I tend to reach for, I want my models to look more naturally lit. And you just don't get that saturated light unless it's artificial light or a golden hour light. And then you have to change everything else. What I hate about a lot of that is often people will go for those saturated highlights, but then they won't think about how that color in their light changes everything else on the model, or should change. You know, it should impact everything else. Some people do. They just like bring everything up with that. Obviously, good painters do, for the most part. Yeah, never use white, huh? Interesting. Interesting. See, since I already have yellow in my mix and I already used some part of the previous mix in my mix going forward, I'm not using a wet palette. So for me, on the well palette, I've got that yellow in there already. I take a piece of that yellow with me into the next highlight. But yeah. But I bet that's a very much a wet palette, well palette split there too. Because I still do very much prefer my my well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, doing the mid-tone glaze. Maybe we'll do that. I was just doing that somewhere. Crap, I was just doing that on a model, and I don't even remember which model it was. Doing the mid-tone glaze over the top of it. Oh, I think it was my bust for my paint-along bust for my Patreon. This lady. Yeah, making a new mix in the well. So if I make another, I've already added, like, whatever I've added to this to bring it up. If I bring this up further, I'm going to add a tiny touch of yellow and a bit of white to it to bring it into my next mix. But there comes a point, I've still got that yellow in there, where I'm just going to carry that over and just use a white or an ivory, depending on what I feel. Because I've already got that yellow that I added back here carrying into the mix over. And if I keep adding yellow, then my light's going to go way too yellow at the top because I'm gradually building. It's as if you made a mix on the wet palette and then you kept adding more yellow and white into that same mix on the wet palette as you built your highlights, but you ended up over yellowing it. But yeah, I always have a little bit of my previous color mixed into my next color with transitions. I find it helps if I need a blend. Don't always need a blend, of course. It's a habit at this point. Mostly for 28 millimeter. Like lately I've been switching up my style so much for bigger models. But when I'm doing the stream and I'm doing my 28 style, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, color temperature is tricksy for people. Maybe I should do a PDF on that. People, when Sergio was talking about color temperature in his class, I saw a couple people cock their heads because it's like people tend to think of blue as cool, but not all blues are cool, right? Like beginning people who don't know color theory as much, they're like, oh, there are cool colors and there are warm colors, but in actuality, warm and cool are always relative to what is around them. Yes, warmer than blue. Although you can have a purple that is cooler than blue if your blue goes toward green and is very saturated, because technically more saturated colors tend to read as warmer. Correct? Yes. So you believe in the red. See, they teach it two ways here. Some people say closer to red is warmer, and some people say closer to yellow is warmer. And I've heard it taught both ways. It gets very confusing for people who are trying to learn that. Because when you get into warm and cool as regards saturation, relative saturation, then you get into more. This is what confuses people. This is what people is like, oh. Orange is the warmest since blue is the coldest. Yeah. Ah, that's a good way to think about it. That's a good way to think about it, Miniatures Den. I'll ruminate on that. That's a good and interesting thought. I like, and it's also a really good way to explain it. Because yeah, blue is coldest. Just taken in like on the color wheel, blue is definitely coldest. And everybody agrees to that. Like people seem to disagree on whether it's closer to red or closer to yellow that makes the warmest color. But everybody can agree that blue makes the coldest. Neurotic. Yeah, it does become mind-breaking. Yep, and you have to break it down. You have to just break it down, peeps. Like, the best thing you can do sometimes on this stuff is just to, if you're trying to be realistic, and there always is this divide between stylism and realism, and with 28 millimeter, I find that you have to kind of marry the two and make your best call as to what makes the model look good. But as you get larger in scale, there's definitely a divide between stylistic and realistic. And the best thing you can do if you want to paint realistically is to study the way that light and color actually function in the real world, right? And if you want to paint stylistically, look at all sorts of weird digital art out there. There's so much of it. Yes, purple and green both have. We were talking about that. That's why I like using purple to shade greens, because the red and the purple picks up that little hit of like complementary. And of course, they're both in the same secondary triad. But I find that the reddishness in there really works really well with the green. Like you pick that up, right? So the purple has that warm color in it. Yeah, you cannot look at a single paint and say it's cold and warm. That's actually one of the first things I teach in my color theory class is like nothing is in a vacuum. Color is never in a vacuum. You have to like look at it in relation to the other things that are on the model. Yes, must be compared. Correct. Uh-huh. We agree completely on that. It would, I mean, honestly, yeah, any blue that looks primary. Most of the time, those primaries are made with phthalo-cyanines. They're not made with ultramarine, which is why if you look at your chimera colors, you'll have that phthalo red. But every phthalo blue has both a green and a red shade. Yeah, ultramarine has a little bit of purple shift. Yeah, cobalt. Cobalt is probably closer to a primary than a lot of them. I tend to think of cobalt blue as a primary blue, although it's not as dark and it's not as mixable. So, but yeah, you totally don't overthink it. Also, Neurotic. Like that's what Luca's response that any pigment that looks like a primary blue to you is totally valid. So you can't overthink it too much. Yeah. That's why I'm always looking. That's why I'm doing a lot of pigment PDFs on my Patreon right now, Miniatures Den. I'm the $5 tier. Doing a rundown of which pigments, like which blue pigments appear in miniatures paints and which lines have different ones. The reds was the most interesting. Although I just did the browns, and I was fascinated by the fact there really aren't. You don't have different brown pigments. Like what you have though is you have that iron oxide brown, which is so many different colors and can have totally different coverage. Like it's just how much you like how you mess with it, how you control the oxidation. Like it's crazy. And then I did find out that my favorite, which is Royal Brown, non-mummy brown from Chimera, is a totally different pigment than is available in any other. It's not an iron oxide brown. It's a different pigment, which explains why it's got such that punchy red intensity. I love it. If you're reading right now, Zachariah, you better just be reading and not. Zachariah, I finished my new book, Luca. I finished my second book. And Zachariah has a copy of it. It's what the 7 chapters down is. I have a few people who are reading it in advance to try to catch typos and issues. But yes. Better not be watching chat and reading my book. Jeez. How am I supposed to trust your typo catching then? Yeah. I'm trying to release it later this month. Thank you. Thank you for the congrats. I'm proud. Oh, Luca. I have a very clean, I do very clean young adult fantasy. Yes. I haven't written any dirty books yet, Luca. If I do one, though, if I do write a dirty book, you get the dedication. Miniature's dead. But that sounds about right? If I ever write a book with lots of extreme sex in it, it'll have to be dedicated to Luca. You know why? That'll just be what it is. And I'll totally publish it under a pseudonym. Like Anne Rice wrote erotica and she published it. She wrote fairy tale erotica and she published it under a pseudonym. Yes, all your jokes in response to Anne's dedication. Yes. I had to really think, I'm trying to make all my dedications very meaningful, so. Actually, it's been fascinating. I've been running Amazon ads for different categories, and so I'm trying to see if my book gets more people looking at it when they're searching coming-of-age fantasy or fairy tale retelling or epic fantasy or sword and sorcery for some reason is what Amazon thinks my book should be. And it has elements of that genre. So I'm like, all right. But yeah, running ads is really interesting to see what my readers think, right? To see what gets the most clicks. Oh dear. Oh dear. Sadly for you, Luca, I really have no urge to write erotica, so I don't know that you'll get a book dedicated to you anytime soon, but I'll keep you in mind. I'll keep you in mind. Oh, I don't want to know. Zachariah, wrong question. Delete that comment. I don't even want to know. Oh, man. This is so far into an unrealistic future. I don't even want to go there. Like, I don't want to encourage reality to adopt this. Yeah, it's true. It is less awful than I thought it would be too. And now that we shouldn't have said that though, Quindy. Now they'll try to outdo it. Ah, yeah, we're about at the end here. All right, so I threw some highlights on this just to see. It's warmer than the base, than the local color is, but I don't want it to be too much warmer than that. So I may play down, because the color that I was using as a highlighter is very yellow for green, and it is in fact that color. So from there, I probably diverge and take it up with a slightly different color. Probably an off-white or a white. Base green is Jungle Moss. Monarch Purple is the Shadow. Jungle Moss is 9082. It is a underrated green that is really beautiful, soft dark green. And then I have the unlabeled version, because this was a prototype, of Leaf Bud Green, which is a newer color from the Kickstarter, which is also very useful. But I love spring greens. I love spring greens. As Kariniko drags the conversation out of the gutter. Thank you. Thank you, Kuro. Oh, no, no. All right, too far. Too far. Too much. All right, so that's what we did today, folks. Hold on, hold on. I like this. I like how this is coming out. Tomorrow, hey, we're either sculpting a base on a mouseling, or we're going to continue work on our drunk mermaid. But I think, hopefully I'll be energized and we can use our new cosplay to sculpt some base for our mouseling. Rawr, mouseling, rawr. So yeah, I need to nail down in my head. I need to dig up my tombstones and stuff like that. Yes, the drunk mermaid's face is very facey. All she has is a face. She has a very smirk. She has a very smirk face. She has a lot of smirk. Yeah, we're gonna do some like non-iridescent on them, neurotic. I'm gonna use. It's actually a color scheme that I used on my Eldar. So we're gonna try to replicate it. You never know. You love digging up tombstones. Oh no. Oh no. Oh yeah. So Luca's in full-blown inappropriate, like he's ever anything else. But yeah, I'm glad to have you back, Luca. I'll say that. Quinny's like, why? Thanks, everybody. Thank you, guys. All right, I'm going to let you all go. Have a great day. I will be back tomorrow. And yeah, we'll either be sculpting base stuff or we'll be painting mermaid. Maybe we'll do both. Maybe we'll do both. You're sorry, Anne. We're all so sorry. Yes. Oh, happy birthday, Twisted Oma. Happy birthday. All right, everybody. I got to go walk a puppy. She was on earlier, Miniature Stein. You totally missed her. She was trying to totally eat my arm. But I will see you all later. And have a great one. Have a great one. Yes, fun walking. No injuries. Yeah, I know. No Kiki injuries. No dog-related injuries. Okay, I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.